Good afternoon, everybody. We're back in the beta room, Build Stuff 2022, and sniff, sniff. We're down to the last session. I don't think I have that much housekeeping to do today, because if you've not entered for the Bose headphones, I think you're possibly a little bit late, but please keep up with the tweeting anyway. So I am really pleased to ask Dean back to the stage for the final talk of the day. Dean Schuster, who is an avid ultramarathon runner and trail runner, and I am just absolutely in awe of anybody that can do ultramarathons. For the last talk, digital product access, the user experience problem of our time. Dean, floor is yours.
All right. Hey, everybody. Okay. How many here were here for the last talk? Like, okay, great. I guess I have to change it then. I got to do something different. Okay. No, this one will be good, I promise. Okay, it's me. So for those of you who are not here, my name is Dean. Experience Dean is the Twitter handle. You can find me. Some of these things we'll talk about are a little bit complex. You want to talk more? That's where I am. I am the founder, owner, partner of TrueMatter. We're a UX consultancy in the United States. We do UX all the time. So I am your UX talk. And today we're going to talk about something really near and dear to my heart and something I've been thinking about my entire career. And this talk is sort of a bit of a culmination of that. So I want you to bear with me as we talk about digital product access, what I think is the user experience problem of our time. So, question first. How many of you are tech support? Anyone? Okay, now, how many of you are tech support for your family? Okay, now we're talking. Now, I am tech support for my family. Specifically, I'm tech support for my mom. Oh, it's my mom. Now, my mom is 76 years old, and if she has a problem, she calls me. Now, she has to call me because I live in South Carolina, and she lives in Connecticut. That's like she lives near New York, and I live near Atlanta. It takes 12, 13 hours to drive, so she's got to call me. Now, I'm the one who got her the computer, and I'm the one who got her the phone. Otherwise, she wouldn't have had them, so I guess it's my own fault. Now, here's a typical phone call. My mom calls me, and she says, okay. And she says, she didn't even say hi. She says, my Facebook won't come up. And I say, oh, that's terrible. And I answer, I'm going, because I know the next 1 to 2 hours of my life are gone. And I think to myself, I could be upset at this, or I could recognize that she did fashion my very existence, so I guess I could help her log into Facebook. So I say, well, Mom, so what do you mean? What's the problem? Facebook doesn't come up. Okay, so, what are you looking at right now? And she says, the TV. I'm in the living room. I'm like, okay. All right, when Facebook doesn't come up, what are you looking at? Are you looking at your phone? Are you looking at your computer? A computer. Say, Mom, I'd like you to go to your computer right now. And so she goes to her computer, and I say, okay, now what do you see? Nothing, it's not on. So we go through this after a while. We get the computer on. Now, what are you looking at on your screen? What do you do when you try to get Facebook to come up and it doesn't come up? This is why I just opened this link that you gave me. It's on the screen. So we'll open it. It's open. Well, what do you see? Nothing. If I say, all right, what are we looking at, Mom? She has a Mac. So I'm like, are there like 3 dots somewhere in the upper left of a box anywhere on your screen? Yes. Okay. What's in that screen? And she says, just something this is a box. I'm supposed to type something. And I'm like, okay. And one day I decided, because I had no idea what she's talking about, I said, Mom, I gave you this phone, right? And we can do a video call. So why don't we do a video call, right? Now, all you've got to do, Mom, is accept this video call and then figure out how to turn your camera around and then face it at the screen so I can see it. Was I successful? No, I was not. Because I actually have trouble when I'm doing a video call with my mom. She doesn't realize that the thing she's seeing is what I'm seeing. So I only ever really see the top of her head in any video call. And I haven't really, so getting a turnaround, that was near impossible. I actually achieved it once, but that was more like a 3-hour call. Anyway, this time I did achieve it. We moved the thing around. It took forever. And I realized she's looking at a login screen. She's logged out of Facebook. I'm like, oh, I know what's wrong. Somehow you're logged out. Don't know how, didn't want to ask, okay? Because who knows how she got logged out of Facebook? I don't know. But I'm saying, all right, Mom, all you got to do is you have to, all right, Mom, you remember that notebook I wrote for you, right? And it's got like this list of stuff in it, and it says passwords and usernames, and one of them says Facebook, right? Is that first one? That's what you have to write in there. Yes, it's the name of your grandson. Yes, all this sort of, right? And on and on and on and on. And I finally get her back into Facebook, and it took forever, and at some point, I'm just talking her through, and she's like, I typed it, it didn't work. I'm like, what did you type? Did you type the thing I asked you to type? Well, I typed it in the box. Well, what box did you type it in? Oh, God. And so I'm just, for all day, basically just trying to get her logged back into Facebook. And I just honestly don't think Facebook is really that worth it. So anyway, that's a typical phone call. Now, here's the stuff my mom, now I should say something about my mom. She's like really smart, okay? She's an accountant and she prepares taxes for people. And in the United States, that's a complex job. She put herself through school. She got highest marks in school doing it. She's smart. But when it comes to this stuff, it's rough, okay? Here are the things she struggles with. Are you ready? Signing up. Logging in. Staying logged in. Recognizing that she's even been logged out. This is a mystery that I still have not been able to penetrate. Retrieving a password, forget it, that's my job. Regaining access and handling credentials. Did I miss anything? She struggles with all of it, every last thing. And my aunt struggled with it, my other aunt struggled with it, my sister struggled with it, and it is my burden for some reason to be tech support because I'm in computers. Anyway, the thing about it is that my mom is not alone, okay? And then maybe your mom, your dad, your grandparents, aunts and uncles have similar problems. But as a usability professional, my job is to do user tests and observe users all the time and work with, development teams on really cool stuff. And we see these types of problems all the time. Now, let me tell you about the day I learned this as a professional. This was way back in the dim, misty recesses of time in the late 90s. Okay, I've been doing this for a long time. I'm an old person. And this is this interface we made. I can't even make it bigger because the interface was just so small back then, right? And this was this crazy interface where you could pick the doctor you want based on your problem and do all this stuff. It's really bad, okay? It's not very good. I could just do a whole talk on how bad this interface is. But anyway, we have to learn somewhere. And I was at least curious enough to want to do a user test of this thing in the late 90s to see if it worked, if people can do it. I was into that, so I decided to try. And here's the problem we found, that before anyone could even get to figuring out whether they could use this mess, they just had to get in. And all they had to do It's not even 3 things. It's really 2 things. They had to say where they lived, zip code or postal code or the city, and then choose a specialty, like I want a brain doctor or I want a foot doctor. Go. And that's what everyone had trouble with. Everyone failed miserably at this simple either or, and this was basically the screen that we were testing and working on. And we spent all day on this screen. We were prototyping the screen at the time, so we were changing it and bringing new users in and all sorts of stuff. We finally got it to a point where people understood what we were talking about and could get in, and when they finally got into that other crazy screen, it was fine. They really didn't have any trouble. Completely opposite of what I thought, and it set me on a path of thinking about access and how hard it is. Like all the stuff that we do and we make, kind of the hardest stuff is people even getting into it in the first place. And I see it again and again and again when we test, when we go ahead and we talk with companies, we talk to their call centers and we say, what are the chief problems you hear about your product? What do you think it is? Take a guess? What's that? It's logging in. First is retrieve password. Second, log back in. It dominates. It's not close to everyone we've ever talked to. So we know this is a problem. So what I'm going to do today is try to not just impress upon you the nature of this problem, because I think you know it. I want you to develop passion for this problem, okay? And then we're going to get a little bit into some things you can do, but mostly it's about unpacking the problem. I want to know why. Why is such a relatively simple thing so hard? This is what I wanted to think about. Why? It's not like that hard to do, is it? Like we're power users and all that. We just talked about that last session. It's like, it's baby stuff, right? We have no problem doing this. We can do anything. But access gets people upset, okay? Now I'm like this. I'm at my worst as a person when I'm having trouble with technology. Specifically, if I'm in a hurry, I got to get something done and something's not working. I'm angry. So I guess calls to my mom where I have to be patient with her for 3 hours are my penance. Let's look at sign up. This is sign up. Okay, for the free application of federal student aid in America. It's basically something that everyone has to fill out to send your kid to college and get some money. If you want that sort of thing for college. And everyone has to fill this out. This is one of like 1 trillion steps to sign up that involve going out and getting tax information imported in. It is not for the squeamish, yet everyone has to do it. And these are just a few of the screens that we see in the FAFSA. This is asking financial information, background information, information that you have to go into a file cabinet and find. It is really hard. And a lot of sign-up processes are not as bad as the FAFSA, but you get kind of the feeling that they're trying to be. Look at the steps. This is only like, there's like, I don't know, 6 steps here. All of them are long. All of them include questions. They include instructions. They include help. They include forms. And then you have to go through another series of steps. It's unending. It's crazy. And you have to do it, and your kid has to do it, and you got to do it every year. And there's 2-factor authentication, there's PIN numbers, and then halfway through it, I had one kid, I brought him all the way through it, and then they changed the system, and by the time my next kid came through, I had to do it all over again, do it differently, and make these PINs again. It's 4-number PINs, which I didn't want to get started. Point is, sign up for the FAFSA. Brutal. And not everything is as bad as the FAFSA. But if you want to sign up for something complex, are you seriously going to ask my mom to try to do it? No. It won't happen. It's not that it can't, it just won't. All right. Oh, look, I thought I was done. There were more. Okay. I could just do all day on the FAFSA. And it gets me upset. If I'm filling out the FAFSA, I've got problems. Just like if I'm doing my taxes online. It just makes me angry. And I don't know how else to put it. Now, here's another one, okay? This is basically a sign up, Okay, this exists today. This is not the FAFSA. That is what it is today. Okay, it's not like this is something from the 90s anymore. All this is, by the way, okay, if you live where I live and say you want to plant a tree in your yard, okay, you have to go to 811, whatever, and you have to sign up so that someone will come out and they'll spray paint lines in your yard about where all the cables are and all the pipes are so you don't try to plant a tree and burst a water pipe. Seems nice. Really didn't seem that hard to do. Hi, would you come to my house and paint some lines? Yes, thank you. That's it, right? No, this is what you do. Okay, and this is more typical of the way things are in the world today. It really is. This is true today. Now, look, I'm even showing, look at this error message. I'm a nice guy, okay, but when I deal with stuff like that, I lose it. That kind of looks like my mom, doesn't it? I just realized, okay. But she never gets mad. She's great. Okay, here's a lot of fun. I use a lot of Microsoft tools, okay, in my office. It's great. He says, trying to convince himself. And here's a problem I have, okay. I get Outlook on my phone. And of course, we have this recurring issue where we have to change our password because it's smart, okay? Because we got to be secure, right? Obviously. So I can't remember what it is. You know, my guys have that set up so it's like every quarter or whatever, we got to change our stuff. Now, sometimes they'll do something different and we'll rejigger our systems. And because of that, hey, let's all just change our passwords, whatever. Anyway, the way Microsoft tells you this, if you're a Mac user, iPhone like me, is at some point, at some time, you will simply stop getting email. And then you'll attempt to show up on your screen, and your screen will say, can't connect to Outlook 360 or whatever. I'm like, oh, that's odd. I haven't done anything. And then you realize, oh, I have to change my password, right? So you go ahead and you change your password. Now, you change your password, let's say on your phone, okay, and you have to go in and you change your password, and you got two-factor authentication and all that stuff. But then you have to go and you have to individually change it every single instance of Microsoft technology you use, even if you're using Microsoft's own authenticator. If you've gone past the joys of receiving multiple text messages. My favorite, of course, is authenticating on my phone with a text message to myself is my favorite. And all these things have to occur, even though I don't have to change my password every time. I have to re-sign in and show my changed password every single time. And I'm struggling not to swear about it right now, okay? It gets me upset. It gets me angry. There are geniuses at Microsoft. Okay, there are. Why can't we solve this problem? Okay, I got another one for you. I want to pay my taxes because, I'm a good citizen. And I owe the United States government $100, right? For those of you who live around here, nowadays, that's roughly 100 euros. Okay, so I want to pay online because, it's me. I'm not going to call or go somewhere. I'm going to pay online, so I do. But here's the thing. Once you log in for the first time to their new system, by the way, because when they change it, you have to do it again. This is the letter you get, okay? We're sending you an activation code. Thank you. Via U.S. mail. You need it to do anything. You'll have it in 5 to 10 business days. This is a real thing. It really happened. Now, 5 to 10, that's like 2 weeks. Okay. Now, if you're me, you get the letter. Yeah, got the letter. And you got stuff to do, right? You don't just like, ooh, I'm going to open up the IRS letter and stop everything and do everything I need to do. No, I'll get to it tomorrow or whatever. And so I finally get to it. Yeah. I got to log in. I got to pay that $100. So I go ahead, I open the letter. Great, got my activation code. And I go to log in, and it fails. It fails because that dang login expired. And if it's, all right, first of all, if you don't receive the letter, because maybe they didn't get your address right, okay, you have to go log in again. We'll send you another letter. Same thing happens if you wait too long and it expires. You have to go in, try to log in again. You'll get the failure part. And then you say, oh, we're just going to send you an activation code. And then you wait another 5 to 10 business days. That happens today. That's a real thing that happens today. I haven't even done anything yet. I haven't gotten anywhere. I've done anything. Yeah, by mail, 10 to 5. Okay. Gets me pretty upset. Okay. Other reasons why this is a problem. We'd like to think that technology is moving along really fast, but it's not. It's really not. And we're basically the problem. Economies of scale are the problem. Human behavior is a problem. It's great on a phone. First, we got our little, we can tap a few numbers. First it was 4, now it's 6. Who knows what it's going to be, right? And you can get into your phone. Hey, we can use our thumb or forefinger. That's great. That's helpful on a phone. That's not so bad. Now you could look at it. It's good. It's nice advancement. I actually like it a lot. I know it's not perfect. You can falsify your face or your thumbprint or whatever. But we have to make some kind of progress, don't we? Unfortunately, we still don't have it quite set for these things. We can't just do all those easy type of interactions for everything. Mostly we're kind of just logging in and we're retrieving passwords and we're doing two-factor authentication and all this sort of stuff. So we're still in that space. We're not going to be here forever, but we might land on Mars first. Okay, so and I mean that. In the meantime, okay, tools and passwords are completely out of control. Right? We live in a golden age of content, right? A golden age of tools. We can do anything we want. Most people, it is said, have an average of 100 passwords, okay? All right, so my mom's got like 5, because that's all I've authorized her to have. I have like 355 plus at this point, and I just stopped counting. I didn't even count the stuff I don't remember or know about anymore. If you're like me, this is probably true of you, and you've got to get a password manager, and you've got to do all sorts of crazy stuff to, decide how you're going to implement your password manager into your workflow, because that's what you need to do to handle things, right? I mean, this is just an example of the folders in my password manager. Okay. Now, humans also have a bad memory, which is why we need password managers, right? Our memory is actually quite awful. We can't handle passwords. We can't memorize that. You break it apart beautifully into 4 segments, no way. You would try to memorize it. The best among you might be able to get it. You'll by tonight, it's gone. If I were to, set them up in a visual way, you still couldn't do it. If I showed you these 10 things, keep looking, and then I just went away, the chances of you remembering a couple of them very low, all right? It's just the way we are as humans, okay? And this is why we end up with stuff like this, which is basically true of my mom's passwords. After a while, she's like, well, I'm just going to, put in, her grandson and his birthday. I was like, okay, if it helps us in the next conversation, I'll take it. I'll take what I can get. But this is why these things happen. And these things they proliferate today. They proliferate in companies. It's not like, even with great password rules, you still end up with junk passwords or people who are using the same ones all the time. Okay. Now, another reason why access is so bad. How am I doing on time? Am I dying? Okay. All right. Okay. I'll go faster. Okay. When we make things better, we don't always make things better, okay? When I was growing up, this was my television set, okay? Not this one particularly, but like this, right? And I had 3 channels, like every young kid growing up at my age. Now, sure, you had to get up and turn a channel to watch something different. But as soon as you turn the channel, it was instantly there, and you knew it was going to be there, and you had a handy little guide. It was printed. It said what was on that day, and it was pretty easy. Sure, it wasn't lush and wonderful and full of great content. You're not going to see Andor on that, but it was easy. Then things got a little better. And we have to run a zillion components and cable and use incredibly hard to use things in order to just watch TV. And I would just lose it. I'm trying to be nice in front of my children. Don't say bad words in front of the children. I just want to watch TV. It's not that hard. Yes, it is actually. And then, hey, maybe things will be better if I use Amazon Fire. Anyone use Amazon Fire? It's not better. It's not better. It's really hard to find all your stuff, and they hide it on you, and you gotta authenticate. God help you. You gotta authenticate to get all your apps. That's a big pain. And then randomly you lose authentication, and you have to get it back. You click on something after you find it, and it'll get started at some point, maybe, depending on your service or how they're feeling. TV, even though it's this rich landscape, it's not easier. It's not easier. So the fact that we have phones that could have somewhat easier ways to authenticate is kind of miraculous. Okay, and we're not where we're going to be. We've talked a little bit about credentials recovery. Don't get me started on that. Or two-factor. I love two-factor. But imagine how I had to explain that to my mom. Okay? This is how I explained it to her. Yikes. I said, Mom, here's your house. This is a house I grew up in. This is my mom's house. I said, Mom, to get into your house, what do you do? I use the key. Yes! That's single-factor authentication. You have a key, you open the door, and you get into the house. Now, imagine you put your key into the door, you turn it, and then you have to call me to come by, prove that I'm your son, and bring the second key. And together, we'll open the door and you can go in. And she said, that's awful. I said, yeah, that's two-factor authentication. That's what that is. And when you're asked to do all the stuff, that's what you're being asked to do. It was great because she actually understood it after that. So I can say like two-factor to my mom. She's like, oh, what key do I need? It's great. But, it is what it is. And for us it's easy. It's so easy, right? It's nothing because we're like, yeah, I'll just get the authenticator app. I'm good, right? Real people don't do that stuff, okay? Real people have to deal with junk like this. So there's no standards by which we recover credentials. It's wildly different based on apps. It's all over the place. And I could just spend all day just talking about, a password, a one-time password, which is optional. Sounds great. I could log in with SSO, which I'd say, why didn't I already? But that's another story. We solve the problem like we do as developers all the time. If they can't use it, just write some help, which of course never works because people don't read it, and they don't do that in these scenarios either, so it's useless. This is just a little example of how hard it is to recover credentials in a student and teacher situation. It's just a process they had to outline just so you could figure things out. I don't even want to read it now, let alone do it. Okay. Things are not better in big companies, right? Because they're dealing with all this stuff, right? It gets actually worse and more complex. And when we're talking about, we make complex apps all the time. So we are talking with big organizations that have serious security concerns, which I wholeheartedly embrace, by the way. I am a complete fan of security. Don't get me wrong. It's just how we're getting through it is the issue, right? Because login, access, it sort of exists at that nexus of security and usability, right? If you want something to be super usable, throw away security and it'll be easy. But if you want something to be super secure, you're gonna have to put up barriers, and barriers cause problems with usability. They just do. But anytime we're talking about big stuff, like we're making an intranet, we're making a big app, man, we are talking about this, and we're talking about it a lot when we're talking about requirements for how something is. Maybe I'll go over here. How something is or isn't easy to use. We'll spend forever dealing with requirements on this stuff. And as we should. Okay, And then, of course, if we're in a big company, we get the joy of this. Mom calls me, you get to do a support ticket, okay? And that's not always a great deal of fun, too, because you've lost the need for security means you've lost control and control over your own environment. So that's a usability problem for you. It's an efficiency and productivity problem for you. You could always just, wait for all those things to happen. Okay, doing pretty good. All right, now, here's the zinger for us as developers and engineers, because dev teams as a rule aren't focusing enough on this user experience problem. We're just not, because there's so many other problems to deal with. So that gets us into this kind of problem of a UX person and a development team sort of working together to solve a problem of security or ease of use. And this is what we hear all the time when we approach development teams and say, we've got to focus on sign up, login, credentials recovery, all this sort of stuff. They say, we've solved this. We use Okta. It's fine. It's not fine. We have patterns we already made. We'll just use them again. We hear that all the time. We got to focus on the stuff we're making, not just login, okay? But I'm here to convince you that everyone has the problems with login. I promise you, they do. I can't, it's not a coincidence anymore. It's been 25 years in the industry and I still see it all the time. So I'm beginning to think it's a trend. It's a problem for everyone. Novice straight down through expert. They just react differently to it, right? My mom can't do it. I just get mad at it and lose precious time is what I do. And I get mad at all of it. Okay, we have a few minutes and I'm gonna, yes? Whew, it's gonna be tight. There's a few things we can do to fix it, okay? Again, this is like, I'm giving a workshop on this soon. It's a workshop to fix it. This is just a taste of what it means to fix it. Okay, we'll move from there. How do we unlock this problem? How to make a better user experience out of this? Okay, first of all, I think we can all do this. We're going to agree with reality. We have defined the problem. It is a real problem. There is data behind this problem. Everyone screws up at this stuff. So just accept it and know that if you're not spending time on it, you're simply not agreeing with that reality. You can audit your stuff now, okay? That's what I would do. I'd say, well, are people having trouble with my stuff? I don't know should be the answer. Always the answer is, I don't know. So let's find out and get some data, do some tests, and you may find out something you don't want to hear, which is what we've already said here, which is there are problems with it. Aligning your team to the problem means you have to figure out how the team can work toward that end. You have to choose it to be a priority and then work on it. Can you get it? Just take over here. Okay. Oh, that's a 5-minute card, not a picture. Uh-oh. 10 minutes. Yes, I can do it. Okay. A lot of times we think this way. We definitely think this way about sign in and log in. Okay. We've got something to just got to get out there to the users. It's a program, it's a system, it's a tool, it's what we've done, and we push it out there. And that's fine, except that it has the consequences we've just talked about. Right? So what we really want is to understand how our users are dealing with us. Okay, and we've talked about this in the last session. You'll hear me talk about it endlessly because it actually is the solution. And one of the things I like to call it is just embracing the fact that I don't know something. I don't assume that my solution actually works until I see it with my own eyes. Test it, or I don't assume that my products are performing well on sign-in, login, credential recovery until I see it with my own eyes. Richard Saul Wurman once said, my expertise comes from not knowing, okay, not from knowing. Knowing the answer, anyone can know an answer. It takes a real hero to say they don't know. We have to play nicely together. If you have UX people in your life, you should be nicer to them than this developer was to me, although I did get him back. And he got me back. It's hard to work well with people who are telling you your stuff needs to change all the time. Just accept it, embrace it, find a UX person in your organization, become best friends with them. Together you will make better things. Period. You just will. Okay. when we're thinking of access never, ever, ever happens just at the point we're developing in the form fields we make to authenticate a user. They're happening in all these places, especially for normal people out there in the world. They're dealing with almost everything on this list, whether they're getting a text or an email or a call, or they're talking to someone. Letters, I put letters there because the IRS sends me mail telling me how to authenticate. I mean, that really happens. In other words, these are offline things. These are other online things. And if we don't think about all of them, we haven't really created an access experience that works. And that's really hard to do because chances are all we are tasked with to do is to make sure that in an app, we can successfully authenticate a person. Yet, if that's all we do, we could still have a really cruddy solution, which also includes mom calling me. There's mom again. Okay. I don't have much time, so I'm going to skip a lot of the design for failure talk. Just know that we're developers. We know this. We're edge casey people. We're designing for when things go wrong. There's a lot of good stuff out there about how to do forms and errors and correctly. Won't have time to get to them so much today. Simple and plain language. We talked about this last time. This is one of those situations where most people just need the simple stuff, okay? Because sign up, log in, credentials recovery is such a fundamental thing that everyone needs to do. We do need to be radically simple and plain and clear with it. Something I said last time too. If you make your product accessible, chances are you're solving a lot of these problems. So it's just a great offshoot of making something accessible is you tend to solve a lot of different problems. It's great. We talked about testing. I can't stress this enough. You've got to test your stuff. Find someone who knows how to do it. Read about doing it. You could YouTube how to fix the carburetor in a car. You could YouTube how to do a user test. I'm sure there's other, I might have missed a session on it. Must do. Okay, last thing I want you to recognize, and I think you know this, it's true, and you have to know this about yourself, is that you have special powers. Right? You are amazing because you know what this is, right? Very few people on the planet know what this is, okay? We think it's so obvious that we wouldn't even, it's like beneath us to even explain it. But no one knows what this is, okay? Real people don't know the stuff we know. They just don't. We've forgotten more stuff than they're ever gonna know. So we're like a superhero, right? We're the Hulk. The Hulk can lift a bazillion tons, can hold up a mountain so that his buddies aren't crushed. That's what we can do. But the Hulk really is terrible at needlepoint, all right? The Hulk can't do that, all right? What we're bad at is being someone who understands what it's like to not know what Control F is, or to not know how to do two-factor, or to not know, wow, I can get an app that authenticates, whatever. All that stuff, normal people don't know. We're actually bad at remembering what it's like to not be a superhero. And if you think about it that way, it'll help you do all this stuff. Now, I also can say with confidence that this is going to be a problem for a long time. It's not going away anytime soon. Not kidding about the Mars thing. It won't be long before we get to Mars, and we're not going to have better login experiences before that. I'm hoping. I mean, I'm hopeful about what's happening on mobile phones. Really. Okay. But it's a start. But you can do something about it. And part of that is what I just mentioned to you. But the other part is you can go ahead and read about this stuff. I realize you'll have to take a picture of this or whatever. But this is the writing part of what we just talked about. Okay. And that can set you on your way. And in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, we're going to the next one. Okay. Do you need it back? Did you get it? Okay. Wait. Okay. The next one, of course, is doing something about it. All right. And so I wrote a little bit about that. That could have been part 2 of the talk. And there's more in there, and it just gets you started. It gets you rolling. At some point, maybe they let me come back. We'll do a full-fledged workshop on this. But there are things we can do, even if we're not the people inventing facial recognition, right? There are people out there who are doing that. Maybe some of you worked on it. But there are things we could always do within the context of the tools we have, if we're thinking about usability and thinking about people the right way. That's basically the idea. I'm just, one of the things I am doing is helping my mom, okay? It's never going to be any different from what it is now. She's never going to remember the stuff I told her, and I'm just going to have to just suck it up. I owe her everything, so I could help her do that. Okay, that's me. If you want to find me online, talk more about this, I'd love to. If you have any questions, I'm happy to attempt to answer them. Otherwise, I appreciate your time very much. Thank you.
Thank you for a second. Awesome talk.
Want to go again? I can just go again.
We've got time. We can do more. That's fine. Do we have any questions in the audience? Any hands going to go up? Who dares talk? Oh, a schedule. I'm sorry. I made a comment last time. I've got to make a comment this time too. I just had to smile when you put the Marvel up there, because anytime something goes wrong on my machine and I swear, my partner says one thing to me. Now you know how we feel.
Nice.
And that's absolutely...
That's tough. That's hard. I admit, it's hard for me to have those conversations with my mom. It's hard.
Yeah. But no, please give it up for Dean again.
Thank you.
Thank you for the second awesome
Appreciate
talk. You. And with that, we're at an end to today's sessions here. We're at an end to the sessions in the breakout rooms, full stop for this conference. I want to thank each and every one of you. It has been an amazing 3 days to be a host here. Thank you to the superb range of speakers that I've been lucky enough to host. Thank you to the conference for putting it on, and all of the sponsors for making it possible. We have Scott Hanselman in Alpha doing a virtual closing keynote at 5 o'clock. Until then, take time, relax, hydrate. Thank you all, and I hope to see you next year. Bye-bye.